About a year ago, I put out a video where I went through my studio and showed you everything that I used to make my videos. And back then, the only thing on my desk was a laptop and a monitor. And as you can see, well, things have changed. I was also using the Canon SL2, which is a great little camera, great beginner DSLR if you can find one, but that's changed as well. And over the last year, I've gotten a lot of questions about what camera am I using, what lens am I using, what computer am I using, and so I'm here to answer all of those questions. We are going to go through every single thing that I use to make my videos. We're going to talk about the camera and the lens and the audio and the computer, which was built by my friends over at Puget Systems, who also happen to be sponsoring this video. Now, if you're interested in anything that I mentioned in this video, there's a link in the description that'll take you to a page on my website that lists all of the gear that I'm mentioning today. And if you want to pick up anything, there'll be links as well. Okay, let's get started. First, let's talk about the camera. Like I said, at the beginning of the year, I was using the Canon SL2. It's a great little camera, but I wanted more. I wanted a flat profile so I could color grade easier. I wanted to shoot in 4K or above. So after a bunch of research and a bunch of money, I ended up getting the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. And I absolutely love this camera. It's got amazing colors. It's got the flat profile. It shoots in 6K RAW, which is a dream to work with in DaVinci Resolve. It's just absolutely, it's an amazing camera. Now, it is missing a couple things like the flippy screen and the autofocus. I got a couple things to deal with that. We will talk about those in a moment. But first, let's talk about lenses. Now, there's a few lenses that I really love to use with this camera. The one that I'm using right now happens to be one of them. This is the Canon EFS 10 to 18 millimeter lens. It's just a fantastic lens, especially for situations like this, where you're in a small space, the camera's gotta be close, but you wanna show a bunch of stuff. This is perfect for that. It also happens to be my vlogging lens of choice if I happen to put out a vlog, which I know it's been a while. There's gonna be some coming this year, I hope. But my absolute favorite lens that I have been using is a lens that I picked up about a month and a half ago, and it's the Canon EFS 17 to 55 f2.8. I love this thing. For one, it's constant aperture, which I've been wanting a constant aperture lens for the longest time. Two, it's image stabilized, which is great if I want to take the camera off of the tripod and go handheld. I have image stabilization in the lens. The other reason why I love this lens is because it's super sharp and it produces a great image quality. Now, because it's so sharp and because I'm shooting 6K RAW and downsampling it to 4K, I needed something to kind of soften the blow and make it not so super sharp. So I ended up picking up a Tiffin Black Pro Mist 1/4 filter for this camera, and I love it. I love the way it looks. I love what it does with the lighting. I love like the contrast tweaks that it does. It's great. As far as storage is concerned, I opted to record externally through the USB-C port on the camera, and I'm recording into a 2 terabyte Samsung T5 SSD. I love this thing. I've had no problems with it. It's super fast and it hasn't failed on me yet. Now, to fix the issue of the flippy screen, I ended up picking up a monitor. I really wanted the Portkeys BM5 because you can actually control the Pocket 6K from that monitor, but what I ended up getting, because it was more budget friendly, was the FeelWorld F6 4K monitor, and it's great. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the Portkeys has, but it has enough for me to be able to make sure that I'm in focus, make sure I'm properly exposed, and be able to see if I'm in frame and all of that stuff. So that's sitting there right on top of the camera. It actually usually sits right about here when I'm filming because my camera's usually set up over there. Now, as far as autofocus is concerned, I did say I bought something to deal with that. Now, the Pocket Cinema camera, like I said, doesn't have continuous autofocus, but it does have one-touch autofocus. So what I did was I bought a Blackmagic 8 Mini. This guy right here. Now, I use this thing for my live streams, my video calls, and all of that stuff. I absolutely love the 8 Mini. I made an entire video about how I use this with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K in order to record my live streams, or in order to run my live streams. But I also use this for autofocus as well, because if I go into the Atom Control software, there's a little button that you can press that will autofocus the camera so I can make sure that I'm in focus, because normally I'm not arms reach away from the camera. Now, as far as camera audio is concerned, I use 3 different things. As far as my main audio, my main microphone, I'm using the Deity S-Mic 2S, which I recently picked up and I absolutely love. It's a short shotgun mic, which is perfect for indoor dialogue, especially if you're in an untreated room, because it doesn't pick up as much of that reverb. I love this thing. It sounds great out of the box. Now, before I had the Deity, I was using the Octava MK12, which is an absolutely amazing mic. It's a short little pencil mic, which is also really good for indoor dialogue and might even arguably be better than the Deity in that regards, but I absolutely love the Deity. So what I'm doing is I'm using the MK12 as kind of scratch audio for when I'm doing my screen recordings for my tutorials. That way I can sync them in post and I actually have decent audio to work with. And then the last thing that I use is actually a pair of headphones, because this camera has a headphone jack and I'm a little paranoid that my audio isn't coming through or I have a setting wrong or something like that. So I have a pair of Focusrite Studio HP60 Mark IIIs. They came in a bundle with something else that I'll be talking about later in this video, and they're not the best headphones out there, but they're good enough to plug into the camera, make sure that I am in fact recording audio, and that's all I really need them for, and it's all I use them for because it's kind of all they're good for. Now, let's talk about lighting. This is another area that I upgraded this year. If you remember, back a year ago, I had 2 LED light panels. They're like little 12 by 12-ish things, and they weren't bad. I had one with a softbox on it that I was using as a key light, and then I had another one that I was using as a wall washer, and that worked fine, except it wasn't giving me exactly what I wanted. I didn't really have the maneuverability with the LED light panel that I was using as a key light. And so I wanted something that was a little bit more flexible, something that I could position exactly the way I wanted it. So what I ended up getting was a Fazatan FL3060 flexible LED panel. Now, this isn't the best light in the world. It's only 48 watts, which is perfect for a small space like this. But if you're in a bigger area, you might want to get something a little bit brighter. It's also only got a CRI of 90. And I know there are plenty of lights out there with a higher CRI, but 90 is good enough if you know how to white balance in camera and you know how to color correct in your NLE. Now, I'm still using those 2 12 by 12-ish. I say 12 by 12-ish because I have 12 by 12 gels on them, but they don't exactly fit and they're not really 11 by, I don't know what the measurement is. It's a weird measurement, but they're currently being used as wall washers. I've got some colored gels on them because, well, the walls in my skin are basically the same color, which makes color grading incredibly difficult. So I have gels on them and now my walls are blue and now I can color grade and get clean qualifications on my skin. Now, along with that key light, I'm using a newer 5-on-1 reflector because I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a time when you would watch my videos and half of my face would be super, super bright and the other half would be super, super dark. So I ended up setting up my 5-in-1 reflector on the bounce card side. So it's giving me nice soft lighting on the other side of my face so my shadows aren't so dark. And then a couple other special mentions, things that I use as practicals are my aperture pocket lights. I've got an AL-M9 and an AL-MX, and I actually have the AL-MX right behind me right here. I bet you thought that was a lamp. It's not. It is the Aperture AL-MX. It's set to tungsten. I love this thing. It's bicolor. The M9 is great. It's only daylight, but it does come with a couple of colored gels so you can change the color temperature on them. But I absolutely love these things. I love setting them up as practicals so it's not so boring behind me. And that pretty much covers all of the things that I use to film my videos, with the exception of how I actually have all this stuff rigged up on my desk, because that is yet another thing that has been upgraded this year. See, at the beginning of the year, I had my camera sitting on top of my switch pod, which was just placed on my desk wherever I could fit it. And then I had, my light stand behind my desk. I had a tabletop boom arm for my microphone. It was just, everything was a mess. I don't have a lot of floor space in this area. I've got like a little 6x6 space and everything's got to fit in there. So, some things had to change. So I ended up coming across a video by DSLR video shooters. Caleb is absolutely amazing, and I'm pretty sure he's an evil genius, but he came up with this really cool rig where everything can be on one stand clamped to your desk, so you don't have to worry about floor space. So I ended up getting all of the parts that he said to get. I'll link those in the website. I'll link the video from Caleb down below. And I built this contraption that clamps to my desk, and it's got an arm for my camera and an arm for my light and an arm for my microphone and even an arm for this monitor right here. And that covers the filming side of things. Let's talk about editing, starting with the PC, which is brought to you by our sponsor, Puget Systems. Look, like I said, a year ago, I was working with a laptop. I was running everything off the laptop, my YouTube channel, my freelance work, everything. And it was absolutely horrible. Render times were atrocious. Everything was laggy. And I was just really approaching the point where I wanted to do more, but I couldn't do more with the tools that I had. So I hopped on a call with Puget Systems where I explained everything that was going on, everything that I wanted to do, and everything that I needed in a computer. And they listened to me, and they ended up designing a computer built just for me and optimized for DaVinci Resolve Studio. And this thing is amazing. We're talking 65 gigs of RAM, two 8GB NVIDIA RTX 2080 Supers, a dedicated 500 gig OS drive, a 1TB SSD clean drive. This thing is amazing. So if you're a video editor, engineer, or creative of any kind, and you're looking for a way to add more power to your workflow, head to the link in the description, sign up for a free consultation with Puget Systems today, because those guys are super cool, super knowledgeable, and they will get you started on the right track. Thank you so much, Puget, for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to the studio. First, let's talk about storage. I do have that 1TB SSD drive on the PC, but that is just for editing. That is what I call a clean drive. The only thing that ever lives on there are the files that I'm using for my current project. So I needed some way to archive my footage, so I had it readily available if I needed to use it throughout the year. What I ended up getting was a 10TB G drive from G Technology. It's great because it, one, connects via Thunderbolt 3, so it's super fast, and two, you can piggyback it. So I can get another one of these if this gets full, and I can just continue building up my storage. I can end up stacking 5 of these things, which would give me, what is that, 50 terabytes of storage? Yes, please. And if I had to complain about anything in regards to the PC, and this is a stretch, it would be the I/O. Not that it doesn't have any, because it does, but with the exception of 4 USB ports on the front, everything is in the back of the PC. So what I ended up doing was getting a Hyperdrive 18-in-1 USB-C dock, and this thing has everything I need. It's got SD card reader, it's got micro SD card reader, it's got USB ports, USB-C ports, HDMI ports if I needed that. It's literally got everything that I need, and it's super fast. I mean, we're talking 10 gigabits per second. It's absolutely great. And as an added hack, I ended up getting an extra long high-speed USB-C cord, and what I did was I plugged it into the hyperdrive, and I have it routed around to where my camera sits. So now I don't even need to take the SSD off of the camera. I just reach back, I unplug the cord from the back of the drive, I plug in the long cord, which is going into the hyperdrive, and now I'm connected to the computer. And when I'm done, I unplug that from the back of the drive, I plug in the one that goes into my camera, and we're good to go. It saves a lot of seconds. Moving on to audio. Now this is the audio that I use to edit my footage. We're gonna start with the audio interface. Now, an audio interface is super important if you're an editor of any kind, because one, it typically drives more power to your headphones, which means you can use higher impedance headphones, which most editing headphones tend to be higher impedance. So that's good. Also, they have inputs in the back for your near field monitors, which are also super important. So I ended up getting the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. It's got 2 XLR inputs on the front for your microphones. It's got a headphone jack, and it has 2 1/4-inch outputs for your near field monitors. Now, as far as the near field monitors are concerned, I ended up getting Mackie CRX3s. They're 3-inch near field monitors. They're not the best, they're not the highest quality, but they do absolutely 100% work, and I've been using them to edit over the last couple videos, and I'm really enjoying it. And then when I need to dive into the details and really make sure everything sounds the way it's supposed to sound, I go to my trusty old AKG K240 studio headphones. These things are just, they're like my old faithful. I've been using a pair of these, well, various pairs of these. I've been using these headphones since I was 11 playing in recording studios. They're absolutely fantastic. I'm not gonna dive into all the specs of these because I already did a video on them. I'll link that below. All right, we're getting down to the final few items. Let's go with the keyboard. Now, I will be the first to tell you that I would absolutely love one of those really super expensive editing keyboards from Blackmagic Design. It would be great, but I don't have that kind of money right now because, well, I just bought all of this stuff. So instead, what I ended up doing was going with an Editor's Keys keyboard. Now, amongst other things, Editor's Keys is known for their keyboards. They make these keyboards with overlays that have all of the keyboard shortcuts that you need in whatever program you're using. So not only do they have ones for DaVinci Resolve, they've also got them for Premiere Pro, Final Cut, and a whole bunch of other NLEs and DAWs. So you're covered. I ended up going with the Bluetooth Slimline for DaVinci Resolve, and I absolutely love this thing. It's lightweight, battery life is absolutely great. I haven't had really any connectivity issues, except for the one time that I turned it off so the cat wouldn't screw up something that I was working on, and then I went to go try and work on something, and I forgot I had turned it off, and I was clicking the buttons and nothing was happening, and I reset my computer like 4 or 5 times, and it wasn't where... Basically, there's nothing wrong with the keyboard. It was all me. All right, we're now to the monitors, the computer monitors, which I'm super excited about because these are very, very new, but there's a story behind them. See, when I got this desk, I also ended up getting a monitor, which I was using as a second monitor, and I absolutely love the dual monitor workflow. And unfortunately, when I ended up getting the PC, I gave the laptop to my girlfriend, so I was back down to one monitor, and I was looking forward to getting a dual monitor again. So over Christmas break, with my Amazon gift cards that I got for Christmas, I ended up getting this LG Ultrafine 4K monitor. And this thing is absolutely fantastic. I loved it. I still love it. Why am I talking past tense? This monitor is absolutely amazing. The only problem is DaVinci Resolve was not a huge fan of the resolution differences between this 4K monitor and my old monitor, which was 1440p. So I ended up picking up a second LG 4K monitor, and now I've got dual 4K monitors, and they're absolutely amazing. They've got I/O on the back as well, so you've got USB, USB-C, HDMI, and DisplayPort on the back. They're great. I have both of these hooked up via DisplayPort, and I don't know what else to say. They're great. They haven't caused me any issues. And then the last thing that I want to mention, another very recent purchase. This is something that everybody should have if they're video editing, no matter if they're using a Windows laptop, a custom PC, an iMac, or a MacBook. You need to be calibrating your monitors. Calibrating your monitor is gonna make sure that you are looking at an accurate picture, and if you can get the color grade right on a calibrated monitor, there's a safe bet that it's gonna look great no matter what device you're viewing it on. So I ended up picking up the X-Rite i1 Display Pro Plus. This thing is absolutely amazing, and it is the calibrator that most people actually recommend, especially for video editing, because of some of the contrast settings that you can put on there. It's great, and it's super easy to use with their software. I have calibrated both these monitors. They looked fine when I got them, but I realized after I calibrated them, this one had a really big magenta shift and this one had a big green shift. It was crazy, and now they both look exactly the same. I mean, come on. Now, I don't want to tell you that you need all this stuff, because you don't. This is stuff that I acquired because I wanted to do more, and this is the stuff that I needed in order to do what I wanted to do. If you want to know kind of the essentials of what you need in order to get started, what you should buy first, I actually made a video about that. You should click here to check that out. And for more tools, tips, and tricks that'll make you a better video editor, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.